Welcome to the Shergroup podcast, where we share ideas on how to help businesses grow and prosper in the online world. Join host, Chief Shergroup Claire Sandbrook as she discusses her digital journey and how Shergroup is helping thousands to keep their business flowing and growing. Here on the Shergroup podcast.
So hello and welcome to this edition of Shergroup on the Sofa. I hope wherever you are in the world today, you're having a good week. It's nearly Friday when we record this, and the sun is shining where I am. Hope it's nice where you are. So my guest today is somebody that I've been looking to interview for a little while, and I've pinned him down, and here he is today, my friend Luke Memory. And he's going to be talking about CCJ Removal Services and his journey in business as well. So welcome, Luke. And welcome.
Hi, Claire.
Before we get into the interview, as I always do, just like to give a shout out to Shergroup's number one fan, Mr. Ross Saunders, based in Norfolk, England. So hey, Rossi.
Hi, Ross.
And Luke's giving you a little shout out as well. So, okay, now, you might feel this is a bit strange, but I am intrigued by what Luke does because, as many of you know, I am a High Court Enforcement Officer in part of my life. And Luke's business is CCJ Removal, which he has built into a fabulous service. And we met through this service being offered, and I think it's intriguing. And I wanted to explore that with him today and get everybody out there that might have a CCJ and have the right criteria to understand what Luke and his team do. So, Luke, let's just jump straight in. I mean, what do CCJ Removal Services do?
Well, exactly what you said, Claire. We help people to remove county court judgments from their credit report, be that a business or an individual, where they have the legal grounds to do so. And so what we would do is talk to clients, again, be that a business or individual, do a free case assessment as to how have they got here in terms of having the CCJ and not perhaps knowing about it, and then understand that does that present them with the legal grounds to have the CCJ removed. And if that is the case, then we walk them through a process that can end up removing that CCJ.
Very good. Well, somebody's got to do that because that kind of balances the colossal amount of CCJs that are entered every year through the courts, and yes, people not, like you say, not understanding, not even knowing perhaps that they've got a CCJ registered against them. So just the clarification of people listening to this, and perhaps they're not familiar with the term CCJ. What is a CCJ as far as you're concerned? How do you explain that to people?
Well, a county court judgment, CCJ, is an order made by the court that you owe somebody some money, as you will be aware, Claire. And so if you don't pay a bill and a claim is made against you, and you don't respond to the claim in the permitted time, then a judgment will be ordered against you in absence of a reply, in default. So, which is most of the judgments we deal with. Yeah. But a judgment is an order of court that says you owe this money to this company and they have an entitlement to collect it from you. And that judgment, if it's not dealt with, will stay on that person's credit report for 6 years and could get worse because then, of course, it could escalate to High Court enforcement, to bailiffs, to debt collectors, and then the situation only gets worse and the debt only increases.
And, of course, I think some of the organisations that are taking CCJs against their customers or patrons, I'm not quite sure how you would call it, because it's parking fines, isn't it? I mean, that's quite something that you deal with. And
absolutely.
Did you say to me utilities as well? Is that where a lot of judgments come from?
Well, it's a mixture of things, really, but parking tickets is a big one for sure. And I think part of the reason for that is that people are still not really sure that they have to update the V5C logbook for the vehicle. Right. And so they'll update the driving licence when they move home, but they won't always update the V5. It's a secondary thought. And as a consequence, that's where the parking companies get all the data from, the DVLA. but they're not looking for Claire. They're looking for your vehicle registration number.
Yes.
Which means that that's linked to the V5. So if that's not been updated, it's going to go to the old address.
Yes.
So if the initial ticket is sent to the old address, the likelihood is that the following court papers will also be sent to the old address. And that's why a lot of people who we deal with don't know they had a CCJ. They've come to get the remortgage only to find that they've got this judgment that might be 12 months old or longer, and it's been sat there, but they didn't need to use the credit status up until now when they need the remortgage, and now it's a problem.
I mean, who knew that? I mean, I knew about obviously updating the driving license when you move house, move address, but I didn't know you had to update your V5.
That's right.
A little known fact.
Well, I'd hope it's more common, but a lot of the people we deal with seem not to know about it. So maybe it isn't, But
I'm one of those people.
You're one of those people. Well, and also, you see, it can come with a fine of £1,000 for not keeping it up to date. So it's there's more consequences to that than you realise.
Yes. Well, I think the current car we have is with the address that we live at, so I'm good. But for the future, and for everybody else listening, that's a really important point. So, I mean, I've had friends who obviously come to me because of what I do, and they've had a CCJ registered against them for a parking fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I get them to go through the appeal procedure, and obviously that's what your service does. And what I love about your service is you professionalise this into a process so that you evaluate the case, and then you tell people whether they have a chance of being able to get the CCJ removed. I mean, what is the success rate of a CCJ being removed in your experience?
Well, it's very high because we only take cases on that have that meet the right criteria.
Yeah.
So if we get somebody that says, "Oh, I got the court paperwork and I just didn't deal with it at the time, and I just chucked the papers in the bin," then that doesn't really work. There might be other reasons why it wasn't dealt with properly, but generally speaking, people that we deal with didn't get the papers at all, or they were prevented from getting them for some reason. They might have been in hospital, they might have been abroad. You might have been working away. We've had a lot of people that work offshore on oil rigs and in the Middle East. And so if you're away for 3 or 6 months at a time, we've had Royal Naval employees that come to us. And so if you can demonstrate that you weren't there to deal with the claim form at the time it was served, then that gives you the legal grounds. Just to go back on a point, so we don't help people to defend a parking ticket in the sense that, I shouldn't have got the ticket because I disagree with the charge.
Right.
That's dealt with by an organisation called Poplar, Parking on Private Land Appeals. But it is unfortunately controlled and run by those that own all the parking companies. So it is the industry marking its own homework. And so what we find is that normally those appeals are unfortunately rejected, for virtually any reason. So, but we get these cases when it's gone beyond that stage and when it's gone to a judgment and where we have to go back through the court process.
Yes. Well, I'll make my political point here, which is I don't think that I should receive a parking ticket for parking at Aldi and staying 2 minutes over my allotted 3 hours, be that Aldi or Sainsbury's. I think the supermarkets particularly have lost the plot when it comes to charging. And the hospitals. I have a big thing about hospitals charging for parking.
It's terrible. We deal with a lot of doctors and nurses, that have rushed to work to do an operation or to cover somebody else's shift, and they've parked and then they get a ticket and then the judgment at the end of that as well. I think the hospitals in particular is a particular outrage. I think that there should be something done about that specifically, but I also think that there is a tolerance where you can overstay your welcome. I think 10 minutes is the legal minimum now. But how widely that's been enforced is questionable, to say the least.
Well, if you don't agree with being charged, those that are listening to this broadcast, if you don't agree with parking fines at hospitals and supermarket car parks, do put the comments on YouTube. We have quite a vocal YouTube channel, 8,500 subscribers. And they're pretty vocal about what they think about things like this. So we definitely want to hear your views around that. But as I say, Luke is one of the good guys. He's actually trying to do something to ease the situation. Although, of course, as he said earlier, you can't completely solve it. But I love the fact we're doing something.
Yes, absolutely. We're trying.
Yeah. And in terms of this process that you've built, how long does it take from the time you get a case to the time, is it a fairly standard time, or does it depend on which part of the country you're in?
Well, the problem we've got here is that the court system at the moment is a shambles, and again, you'll be familiar with this. And so there are delays at the court. So the process that we would go through is to get a CCJ removed, assuming you've got the legal grounds, you didn't get the court papers, you're probably happy to pay the judgment debt in order to get the judgment removed. But that mediation process takes 4 to 6 weeks with most of the parking companies that we deal with. Deal with all of them. I think there's 181 parking companies in the UK. And they all have slightly different processes, but it's about 4 to 6 weeks on average. And once we've got the signed documentation back from them, that has to be submitted to the court, the Civil National Business Centre, and they can take 8 to 10 weeks to process everything and make a new order of court. But it is starting to take a bit longer because, again, you see, I think maybe shambles is an unfair word, but the court are not perhaps delivering as efficient service as they would like to at this moment in time, and that has been the case for a while. And it has got noticeably worse in recent times. So they must have some issues they're facing. But unfortunately, the legal professionals and the customers feel that in delays that are caused that sometimes are unnecessary. But we have to work with that because there's no way around the court system. We've got to use it. We've got to work with it. And and sometimes we get not so much complaints, but we get people saying, look, this is taking too long now. But it's more often than not down to the court's processing and their inefficient procedures.
I've seen that in many aspects of the enforcement world, where post-COVID, the world has just not got back to where it was pre-COVID.
No, that's right.
And so staff shortages are just almost a way of life, that I can understand it, but it's very annoying, and really for the court system to kind of be in this kind of situation, I think is really unhelpful, particularly with people themselves trying to, get out of their post-COVID situation and, increases in all of their living costs, etc.
Well, absolutely. Well, I think
situation, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that I think COVID though is a pretty weak excuse. Yes, of course there was a backlog, created during COVID, but the court service we're operating. I think what's happened is, and I think it's especially true for government organisations such as the court service. The CPS are no different. The Crown Prosecution Service, the National Health Service. We could make a list. Even land registry, but what's happened is that some of the practices that were at HMRC as well, that's been, and they're even considering closing their phone lines for 6 months.
I know. I saw that in the Telegraph. I was
exactly. So the point I'm making is that what's happened is that they have maintained their COVID procedures, not for COVID, just because they've perhaps felt that it's better for them, it's better for their staff, but it's not better for the users of the service. That's for sure.
No. And let's not forget that we're all paying for these services. They don't come free. They're government services paid by taxpayers. So we're entitled to a good court service and everything else. So in terms of this process of removing a CCJ, can you give a guarantee? Can you say it's a guarantee that I don't think you can you?
No, we can't give a guarantee. But we can say to somebody that you've got a case that meets the relevant sections of law. We could say that, we always say with a good, strong case, we say, look, it's 99.9% likely to be successful, which it is. In fact, it should be 100%. But again, going back to the court service, you don't know what you're going to get back from them. There's a number of people that look at these draft consent orders, and and certain judges and legal officers have different ways of dealing with them. So whilst we can say you've got a good case, it meets the relevant sections of law, and there's no legal reason why this won't be successful, but you have to fall short of offering a guarantee, because there's just that slim chance that if the judge or legal officer in the court makes an order that is a bit perverse, then you have to make an application and go to a court hearing, which is going to cost them more money and take longer. But there is a way around it. But there is always that possibility. It doesn't happen very often in parking ticket cases, especially, but it can happen.
Yes, I remember many years when the rules were changed to the CPR. I think that was back in 1999.
Wow.
The promise to us all was that there would be no such thing as local practice anymore, and the rule book would be the rule book across the board for all courts.
Okay.
And whilst that was a great theory, it didn't turn out quite that way, and there is still that practice. So I do understand what you're saying.
Yes.
I do see that in the orders that come back from applications. So obviously you're seeing that.
Absolutely.
But I think for you, it's important because it's important for any court user to have certainty. But for you, getting a CCJ against you because, I don't know, you overstayed your welcome in Sainsbury's, it's so acute. I mean, if you're going to have a CCJ against you, have it for big reason, not because you overstayed your parking space. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I do know what you mean. And I think that, I was, talking to one of our barristers, and I actually questioned the validity at all of, is this something you should be able to make a court claim over? Because it's not like you've not paid your credit card bill or you've deliberately, avoided paying a debt. Yeah. And for it to cause such harm to people, I think it's a a disproportionate consequence to the offence that has taken place. Yes. But at the moment, you see, there are people that have challenged this in the past. But the High Court have ruled that this is a perfectly valid business practice and the charges aren't unreasonable, and ever since then, the parking companies have had a free rein really to go about the business as they want to, and there was a review taking place in Parliament about the issuing of parking tickets and the policing of that, but that's been put on the back burner now. And I was actually reading an article in the Telegraph myself a few days ago, and it said that there are 35,000 parking tickets issued each day. Each day, yeah, and the bill and the total bill for those parking tickets is £3.5 million a day in fines that are being issued, and that's across the board, retail parks, hospitals, hotels, any private car park. So it's and these parking companies, they're making millions and millions of pounds. They're a hugely successful, industry sector. But yeah, I think it's, I think it's fair to say that most people don't like this kind of this situation that we find ourselves in now. But again, this is how we have to live now. So I always say to my friends and family, if you go and park somewhere, always make sure you read the signs to know what the terms are. And if you don't like the terms, then don't park there. Find somewhere else to park. And another tip as well is that if you find a car park that is that you have to pay for, and is managed by a private parking company, and the machine is broken, that doesn't mean you can park for free. It means you have to go and park somewhere else. So that's because again, you see, you either paid or you haven't paid. Just because the machine isn't working doesn't mean you can put a sign in the window saying, "Oh, the machine is broken," because there's no attendance. It's all done by computer and camera. Yeah. So we've had a number of those, and we have been successful with them in the end. But they're harder because the court say that if you weren't able to pay, then you're not able to park. That's the court's position on that.
So what, is the whole car park empty then?
Well, it should be, because if you can't comply with the regulations, it doesn't mean you can park for free. So therefore, you should go elsewhere. Even though I think it's totally ridiculous, by the way, but that's how it's been interpreted.
Well, let me pin my flag to the mast. I do not like parking tickets, and I haven't had many in my life. But I think it's a stealth tax.
Yes, I agree.
I think it's a way of penalising the great British public who are so tolerant. I think some politicians should get hold of it and just. I'm not saying erase it, because it's a part of life now, and I'm sure it has some. When you're going to a multi-story or you're going somewhere, you're going to have to pay for parking. But the fact that it's in hospitals and in sensitive areas, I think it should be. Somebody should just go, do you know what, we don't like that, and just have the political flag to do something about it.
I agree, and just going back onto the hospitals, I think that's just a cash grab, really, because you've got people that have to go there. You can't choose not to go there. And if I think of our local hospital here in Manchester, South Manchester, and Wythenshawe, and there is actually nowhere else to park unless you want to have a 1 mile hike. And in actual fact, it's right next to an industrial estate, which has got a lot of double yellow lines around it. So you are actually forcing people to pay. And so I think that it's just a cash grab on the hospital trust part, because they could all make their own decisions to say we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to abolish parking charges, full stop. But they won't do it because I think they make too much money out of it.
Yeah, I know. I've had elderly parents in hospital and had to grab to find a couple of pound coins or whatever it is, or I think it's probably card now, but just seeing the stress on relatives' faces, having to cope with that and get into the hospital, it's just too much, just unnecessary. So, we can't change the world, Luke, but we can talk about it. What is your success rate of removing? Can you quantify your success rate?
Oh yeah, absolutely. As I said before, probably 99%, or certainly in that region. The only reason why we're ever unsuccessful is if somebody has told us an untruth or has maybe forgotten what actually did happen. So if I said to you, "Oh, Claire, did you get the court paperwork?" "Oh, no, I didn't get the court papers." But then, upon investigation, it turns out that you did get the court papers and you've done something with them. Well, then that can scupper our chances. So, at that point, we've got to go back to the customer and say, well, look, remember when we first spoke, you said that you didn't get the court papers and, it had gone to your old address, but it looks like it's actually sent to your current address. And you've actually, responded to the court papers. So it's more a question of the information we're given. If we're given the right information from the start, then there's no reason why the judgment won't be removed. If there is any other failings in the service, then it would be down to the other elements. It would be down to either the claimant not responding as quickly as we would like, or the court, again, not performing an efficient process of losing papers. And we can still overcome all of that, but unfortunately, it just means it takes longer for the customer. And I share their frustration. We would love for these cases to be dealt with in half the time, and they should be. But at the moment, they're not. And it's always been. And if you think about it, it's not a surprise. If you think about just parking tickets, 35,000 tickets a day, quite how many of those go to CCJs, I couldn't tell you. But what we do know is that even from that figure, there's a lot of CCJs out there. There's a lot of people with this problem. And so you're in a very, very long queue. And, and we deal with all sorts of different people, business people, entrepreneurs, even some famous people. And they would like to get their case done more quickly and perhaps even pay a higher fee. But that service doesn't exist. There's no way of, having a higher priority process with the court. So that is where the blockage is, as we've said. But the success rate of the service is very high as long as we're told the correct facts from the start and the customer's case meets the relevant sections of law.
I think the brilliant thing about your service, in a world where everything is too much trouble,
yes,
is that you are doing something about it.
We're trying.
I know you are, and I take my hat off to you for that, because people could just go, well, so what? It's 35,000. I read that in the Telegraph. It's 35,000 tickets a day. C'est la vie. But you are trying to help people. I know you can't help everybody, and I know not every case is going to meet the right criteria. But hats off to you for doing something, you and your team, because for the people you do help. I bet you're a real hero. I bet you get some lovely thank you letters.
We do get a lot of good reviews. We've got over 500 five-star reviews, and everybody's very grateful for getting the CCJ removed, because it helps them to move on in life.
Yeah, of course it does.
They can get the new mortgage, they can buy the house, they can get the new car, they can get the job. A lot of jobs now, if you get vetted for a job and you've got a CCJ, that can cause a problem. So this causes a lot of problems for people unexpectedly at the worst possible time.
Yes. I mean, as you know, High Court judgments have to be over £600 in value before they can be transferred up.
Yes.
And so this type of situation, I mean, they do exist, and there are companies out there that deal with parking fine enforcement in High Court.
Mm-hmm.
But I would prefer not to see it in High Court. I don't think High Court enforcement was designed for the parking ticket.
No, I agree with you. And we do deal with some of those cases, and it's very aggressive. And people say they've had the bailiff on the door and they've clamped the car, and and look, you employ bailiffs, but some of the stories we hear is that some of these bailiffs aren't especially nice, and they're doing their job, but they can be somewhat brusque with people, and again, if it's from a parking ticket where you didn't get the letter for the ticket in the first place, you didn't get the court papers, and you didn't know anything about it, and the first thing you know about it is a bailiff knocking on your door. By then as well, they're probably going to be asking for £2,000. So it's for what started off as a parking offence, is now threatening somebody with the removal of their vehicle that they rely on to get to work.
Well, what I would say to that is, if you're one of those people that are caught up in bailiff action, the bailiff should have a body cam, camera with them recording the conversation, which is a great leveler of keeping the conversation civil and keeping it matter of fact. So you can always ask for the body cam footage if you feel that you've come up against an aggressive bailiff. And certainly we have seen that from time to time, I'm sad to say, but it does happen. Be realistic. And if we see that a bailiff has been more than overzealous and has used bully tactics, then that bailiff can lose their licence. So that's something to bear in mind.
And Claire, I'm asking you a question now. With regards to that, people do often ask us who they should complain to if a bailiff has been overzealous, and who is that? Who is the organisation they should take that up with?
If it's a High Court enforcement agent, then they should take that to the High Court enforcement company. But what I would do is make a complaint to the association, the High Court Enforcement Officers Association, and they have a website.
Okay.
So just put that into Google, High Court Enforcement Officers Association, and it will give you the details. You can make a complaint to the association. You won't get a response because they'll send you back to the High Court Enforcement company that dealt with you. But at least the association is aware that there has been a complaint of kind of mistreatment. Mm-hmm. And so if that bailiff company or enforcement agency does fulfill the requirements of their complaints procedure, it will be escalated. And I have seen the association make decisions and awards against bailiffs who have not been fair to the public.
Very good.
If it's not a High Court matter and it's stayed with the private bailiffs, certificated bailiffs, then Civia is the organisation, and they're very proactive. So again, you can complain to the bailiff company, but I complain straight to the association, Civia, CIVEA, and let them know you've got a complaint. They'll direct you back probably to the company again, but at least again, it's sort of given a sign that perhaps there's a problem here with how bailiffs are being trained and how they're actually operating in the street.
Very good.
So don't take mistreatment by bailiffs as a norm. Complain about it, and the industry is very keen to clean its act up, and so it will do something about it.
Excellent. That's good advice. Thank you, Claire.
Yeah. So in terms of how do you get new clients? I mean, 35,000 tickets a day, are they pouring through the door?
Well, not really. I mean, and that's obviously just tickets that are issued on that day. So to become a judgment, it can take some years actually to get to that stage. But we get all our clients now from referrals. So I know what you kindly refer clients to us, and we have a number of other organisations, solicitor firms, debt advisory firms, insolvency practitioners. And we're actively on the lookout to develop more relationships like this, where the people are getting inquiries from people that have a CCJ, but perhaps don't deliver that service themselves. So even some of the solicitors we deal with, they could do this work, but they don't do it because it's not for them. It just doesn't generate enough fee income for them. So they refer those. They refer those customers to us. So that's how we get our business is by word of mouth, by referrals, and we develop some really good relationships with those organisations. And like I said, we want to expand that. So if anybody's listening that is in a financial advisory capacity that would like to have a home for such people, then we'd love to have a chat with you.
Great. Okay. And we certainly have a home for your service on our website. So that's how we can pick up people who are in this situation and direct them to you. So that's good. And how do you charge for the service? Just tell people how you charge for the service.
Well, it's a fixed fee. It's payable up front, and it depends on the complexity of the case. So if it's a parking ticket, then that has a fee level. If it's something more complicated or if it's disputed, again that's different too. So it is a fixed fee service. We keep it a modestly charged. There's no VAT on our service because we're a mediation company. We're VAT exempt, so we keep the fees at a reasonable, modest level, just to cover the administration of the service. And it's normally payable up front. We can sometimes look at splitting that and taking a deposit to start the work and then a balance a little bit later down the line once the court papers are ready to submit to the court. But normally it is an upfront fixed fee, and it's very transparent what our fee is, what the court fee is, and the combination of the two.
Yes. I mean, having spoken to you and dealt with you on a number of occasions as we've kind of got to know one another. I mean, you are the most straightforward fella. So that's, really, I feel that anyone that comes to you with the problem is just going to get a straightforward, sensible service that they can rely on. And that's
absolutely
why it's good to you.
And we're very transparent. And even if not everybody can afford the fee we charge, and if they can't, we just point them in the right direction and say, you have got the grounds or you haven't got the ground, So our service isn't for everybody. Some people would prefer to go through the process themselves, which comes with its own issues, and that's fine too. And if that's what they want, but at least we'll let them know, that they have a case or they don't. And if they don't have a case, and we'd say, well, look, it's no point pursuing this because you're gonna be on the wrong end of it. So at least they know where they stand at the end of our free case assessment.
Brilliant. Well, we can't ask for more than that. And as I say, I take my hat off to you for actually tackling it and turning it into a process and a service that people can get hold of, and they feel they've got someone in their corner who's prepared to, in the right situation, is prepared to help them. I think that's tremendous.
Well, thank you.
So thank you, Luke, so much for guesting today. Please visit Luke or his business at ccjremovalservices.com. I'll put all the information in the show notes to today's show. And you can also connect with him on LinkedIn, which I'm sure I will definitely be posting this on my LinkedIn at LinkedIn, and it's Luke Memory. So you'll find him, just put that in the search bar and he'll come up. But I've got his full LinkedIn page here. So thank you so much, Luke.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I know you probably think it's weird. Why is she kind of batting for people that have got CCJs against them? Well, that is a good question. And the answer to that is because being a High Court enforcement officer is about one of balance, the balance of the rights between creditor and debtor, and not really taking one side or the other. So in this particular discussion, I am very much on the side of a debtor who, there for the grace of God go I. I could very easily be the person in Sainsbury's. Ask my sister. I could very easily be the person in Sainsbury's that overstayed my ticket. And I tell you what, I would be mad. So I would definitely be beating a path to your door, Luke, if that ever happens to me. So I wanted to share it with everybody else. For everything else that goes on in Shergroup, but visit shergroup.com. We have an interesting set of solutions for business people, and we want to introduce you to the interesting people we meet in our journey, like Luke. You can follow us on all our channels. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest. I don't think I've missed anything. We'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. We'd love you to put a comment, particularly after this show, down below, and tell us what you think about CCJs for parking, and what do you think about parking fees for hospitals and other sensitive areas, or just parking fees in general. Do you think government should just stop them and be like it is in Florida, where I live a lot of the year, where we don't charge anything very much for parking at all? But I won't talk about that. And you can also listen to today's show as a podcast. So thank you very much, everyone. Until we meet again, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Sharegroupie podcast. To join our Sharegroupie community, subscribe by going to our website at www.sharegroup.com. Keep up with the latest Sharegroup news across all our main channels, including YouTube, LinkedIn, and across all social media. Stay connected and begin building more business relationships.